fatal flaws which lead to fall of leadership. This principle is applied to a family leader, a group leader, or a social leader, or a leader of an organization, leader of a society, or leader of a state, or leader of a nation. The same analogy plays pivotal in the fall of a leadership. Now let us see what are the fatal flaws that will cause the leadership fall and what is the meaning of this fatal flaw, which analogically can be applied to every walk of life and every stream of the society. A fatal flaw is a character defect in the protagonist of a tragedy. The character has good or even great qualities, but their flaw is one that blinds them to what will destroy them. Often, fatal flaws, which are also known as tragic flaws, are excessive pride, greed, and jealousy. And above all, not being able to understand the contemporary society and the people around him at the moment after becoming a leader. And a leader who cannot understand the changing society, changing needs, and changing perceptions of the people can never be in a position to sustain his leadership for a long time. There is a lot of research in this field, in the field of management, specifically about the organizations, CEOs, and organizational change leaders. But the same analogy can be applied to social leaders or political leaders pertaining to the level of a state or even to the country. Poor leadership will be hidden when a state or an organization is good in its financial position and other parameters of the state. It can be hidden, but poor leadership in bad times is a recipe for a disaster. No matter how qualified an individual is to hold a position or how prominent that position may be, they are still human like everyone else and have flaws. He may be an extraordinary leader. In the book Ginger and Folkman, The Extraordinary Leader, they observed that people challenged to improve their leadership effectiveness found that focusing on weaknesses is often the best approach to improvement. A leader has to always evaluate his steps, and in order to improve, he should have an approach to self evaluation or the evaluation by his own colleagues and peers and other eminent people who are his well wishers. Weaknesses have a dramatic negative impact on perceptions of overall leadership effectiveness. The leadership effectiveness is very, very important to any unit of organization up to the level of a country or a state. These fatal flaws create a negative halo effect and absolutely, positively must be fixed. There are, and here are they. Not respecting, not inspiring due to a lack of energy and enthusiasm for receiving the change and accepting the weakness. Energy levels stay low the moment leader is not willing to hear. He will become unenthusiastic and passive the moment the pride plays a role in his brain to receive the criticism, open criticism, and public criticism, or the criticism from his peers. Pursue additional assignments or initiatives as burdensome. Rarely volunteer or make suggestions for a change. Neither he suggests the change nor he accepts the suggestion of the change. Accepting mediocres as advisors and mediocre performance set minimal expectations, and concentrating on a particular segment only where his ego is satisfied and where he may have an advantage socially or politically. Believe mediocres. They appear to be very smart in giving an advice, but their advices can never be long term, it is only short term measures. A leader who never took opportunities for improvement, lack of clear vision and direction. They believe their job is merely to execute the objectives which he himself has determined best, not society at large has accepted. And he'll cultivate a mind in such a way that whatever he felt good for the society, including his self interest or the interest of the party or his way and path, he will implement only them. He will not deal with the strategy in a proper way with others and give a direction. Cannot give a direction because already his views were already flawed and he has developed a direction only unidirection, not hearing the others. A leader failed to understand that subordinates want to know why something is required. He plans and implements, he suggests a way, and he will not share properly and convince the subordinates or colleagues or peers, whatever it may be. Where something is required, the peers, the people around him, if they cannot understand or being explained clearly by their leader, they will not implement those things wholeheartedly. That is a very bigger danger to the leader for a fall. How their work contributes to the success of the organization or a state or a country has to be evaluated, especially with these mediocre advisors and mediocre assistants. If a leader is unwilling to take the time to communicate, he will lose the trust. This lot of trust make poor decisions. Promises are made, but he cannot keep. They will never be kept. Decisions are made for personal gain and glory, not for the organization's welfare or a society's welfare or a state's welfare or a country's welfare, whatever may be the level of the leadership, starting from the unit of the house to the level of a nation. Leader, if he is not a collaborative team player, difficulty in cooperating with other leaders, view work as competition and other leaders as opponents. If a leader starts thinking that any bright idea given by a person, a good work will become an enemy, an opponent to him, then he will forget the basic thing of constructive leadership and he will never allow them to tell and he will always try to suppress them even if it is wonderful idea to develop his organization or whatever the unit he is administering. A leader fails to develop positive relationship with peers, fails to share information and resources. A leader not a good rebel, a role model, failure to walk the talk, oppose the values and culture of the contemporary, and he cannot anticipate the changing process of the value and culture because of the changes happening in the educational system and social conflicts. There he will fail to understand and he will not rectify himself because he thinks that he had that intellectual capacity and he has already understood what is society and the innermost core relationships available in the society. Oppose says one thing and does another, fails to recognize contributions and hard work of others, no self-development and learning from mistakes. The greatest ability and the character of a leader, great trait of a leader is to understand his mistake, review and rectify. If he is under the euphoria of thinking that he will never commit mistake and whatever he has done is the best, he cannot review well his own decision and rectify his failures. He will never use failure as a learning experience. He will continue to make same mistakes, lacking interpersonal skills, and interpersonally he will become inept because of these fatal flaws which I have been mentioning in already. This sort of attitudes can make a leader abrasive, insensitive, and arrogant. The moment these qualities have been developed in a person, he will lack of respect, he will have lot of disrespect for peers and fellow contemporaries. He will become resistant to new ideas, reject suggestions from others. He will insist on doing things the same old way, close to new thinking, create a climate of stagnation, pretend to listen and do nothing. Another important aspect is always focus on his self. All focus is only on his self, not the development of the team. This is another great flaw, a bigger, fatter flaw for a leader. Highly self centered, perceive the development of subordinates as optional, while looking at the leaders around him, he thinks that always any leader can become an opponent to him, and finally he will become and he will try to enter into a defense mode to protect his leadership and his voice. On a bad day, many of us look like a leader who can lead really, who can change the society, who can change the organizational thinking, who can bring a big organizational change and see that organization runs in a proper way. That is the normal expectations of any contemporary in a particular organization. This requires more often your leadership style and how much self-awareness you have to understand how you affect others. How you are affecting with your ideas, style of functioning and others, how much you are affecting the others. If unless you develop that self-awareness, leader will be continuously committing the fatal flaws. This can lead to the problems including disengaged team and retention of issues, or a team that does not respect you and deliver as needed. We look several kinds of leaders with their fatal flaws or how they can address the greatest weakness of each. Each leader develop a fatal flaw depending on his psychology, his educational background, his aspirations, his ambitions, his perceptions of the society and the fellow travelers in the society. Otherwise, you will find the leaders caught in a brutal cycle of the same issues plaguing the career. And if the chief leader, which we are discussing, or the great leaders we discuss, if they bear with irritational leaders that need to take care more, they leave these irritational leaders and times they give them freedom to talk and to say whatever they like. It causes heavily to the leader. This will be one of the darkest side of this style of leadership. They can be abusive, abrasive, and at times may become cruel. They may harass, demean, and even humiliate the others. Think the dark side of the Steve Jobs or Darth Vader. These two people have much emphasized this quality, one of the great flaws committed by the leaders. The problem with these kinds of leaders are they demoralize their teams, their turnover rates end up high, so they are constantly recruiting new people to churn through. In the end, though, you often can get promoted repeatedly being this way. Why? Because in the short term, this approach can get results, drive your team hard, take advantage of those you can, and worry about any fallout later. This approach cannot make a long sustainable leader, however charismatic he is, however talented he is. Unfortunately, these leaders, they may get promotion temporarily in a society. It leads to a culture in the society showing that to succeed you must be like the two, which is not correct from the point of view of society. Another important factor with these brutal, flawed leaders is rewarding the wrong behavior gets expensive. See, this is one of the brutal flaws, great flaws, certain leadership styles. They reward the wrong behavior, because of which the others suffer physically and mentally. The negative experiences will be accumulated in the minds of several people who are in and around of that leader and will cause very heavy damage. And it may cause more turnover than that leader thinks. So you can be, yourself will become cost to your organization or your unit or your party or your state or maybe the nation, unless the leader appreciate in comparing the movement of the past and present and bridge the bit gulf between the past and present and plan for the future for his sustainability as a leader and the sustainability of the organization he is leading, then only that leader can sustain and see that organization goes in a smooth way and reach the commanding heights. Once again, I reiterate, the same analogy, the same philosophy can be applied whether it is to a house leader or a group leader or a social leader, social leaders, or a politician or a head of a state or head of a nation. The same analogy applies. And finally, that however talented, however committed he may be, the leadership will be collapsed because of his own brutal flaws and bad things that he has never reviewed and implemented for the planning of the future. Thank you very much.